Hello, everybody. Hope you can hear me here. I just want to do a short video on how to make sure that you're authentically connected to your dreams and goals. And this is one of two ways. Sometimes you're working towards dreams and goals that you really should just ditch, because you don't really want to do it. Other times, there are really important dreams and goals that you're working on connecting to, but there's just some major disconnect in your subconscious with it. And if you can track down kind of what your subconscious mind is connecting to a certain goal or a certain thing you want to do, if you can track it down and figure out what's going on, it can be massively helpful. And so I'm going to give you a couple examples of this. So I do holistic stress coaching for people. I do a lot of muscle testing for people. And one day my mom asked me to do some testing for her around losing 30 pounds. And I've heard about this 30 pounds for like most of my life. I was really sick of hearing about it. But she's like, I really want to lose this weight. Can you help me? I'm like, sure. So one thing we did is we worked through something on called the map of consciousness, which is like a diagram that tests your levels of emotional consciousness and consciousness connected to different things. And by all apparent indications, we had fully connected her emotionally to this process of losing 30 pounds. But my mentor, Cheryl Townsley, shout out to Cheryl, smart lady, check her out. She had given me this list of what we call testing phrases that you can go through. And these testing phrases go like this. This is just kind of a, maybe not literal, but like, I'm ready, willing, and able to do whatever it is you want to do. So I'm ready, willing, and able to. It's good for me. I want to. I believe I can. I can be supported by others in it. I can honor it. So different things like that, right? So I'm working with my mom on losing 30 pounds, and I test her subconsciously. So muscle test is if something is true for your subconscious, it makes you a little bit stronger and gives your muscles a little more integrity. And if something's false, it makes you a little bit weaker and puts you a little bit out of integrity. See, because your physical body can be an excellent indication of how well you are connected to something. Anyway, so I was doing this for her on her behalf. And when we got to the either safe for me or good for me, sorry, I have Australian Shepherd puppy fuzz in my mouth. When we got to the safe for me or good for me, it was a definite no, okay? And that's weird. Why would it be not safe or good for my mom to lose 30 pounds? What was in her subconscious mind that had a major disconnect? Well, we started doing some more research and doing some more testing. A lot of things came up at the age of 21, okay? And at 21, my mother's mother and sister had just been killed by a drunk driver. Her brother was driving the car. He was very seriously injured, ended up in the hospital. My mom had to leave where she was going to college, come home and attend a local community college, work full-time, go to school full-time, take care of her father and brother, and by the way, no one ever talked about it. And but guess what else happened to my mom that year? Well, she lost 30 pounds. So you see, subconsciously, if she said, oh, I want to lose 30 pounds, her subconscious goes, well, we know exactly what that takes to lose 30 pounds, and you don't want to do it because to lose 30 pounds, you have to have literally a year from hell, right? And no, you're better off keeping on the weight. Does that make sense? So what that provided for her was, my mind thinks that that's the only way to lose weight is to have this just insane amount of stress and it'll just melt off you. So what you're looking for in different things like this is you're looking for an aha moment, okay? And so, there's a lot of different ways you can do muscle testing on yourself. You can actually use it with your tongue, and I'll give you an interesting example right now, okay? So if we go back over that your physical body, if we say this, look, your physical body is designed to help you tap into your environment, right? And whether you believe that you evolved over millions of years or whether God created you, both those opinions agree that we're on the top of the food chain, right? And if that's true, then certainly our physical body should have been designed to actually tap into and access quantum physics, right? Quantum physics just says, look, everything is energy. We're all connected. And there's this quantum physics Wi-Fi you can connect into. But one way you do that is through your physical body. So, for example, a lot of times people talk about their gut feeling. That's an actual thing. You have something called an enteric brain where you have 8 times more nerve action going from your gut to your brain as from your brain to your gut. But I'm going to give you a quick example. So, you can do muscle testing a lot of different ways. One of the ways I'm going to show you real quick right now is using your tongue. Sounds weird, but here it goes. So if you were to take your tongue and to wiggle it back and forth, left to right, just very smooth inside your mouth, right? So try it right now. Just, right? Very simple. Now, what you want to do is you want to test what a true statement versus a false statement feels like, right? So I would say, my name is Stephen, which I know to be a true statement, right? So my name is Stephen, and I'm going to wiggle my tongue inside my mouth very smoothly. Very easy to do. I'm now going to make a statement that I know to be false, right? My name is Rick. Do the same thing. And what you'll notice is I can still move my tongue left to right, but instead of going smooth, it kind of flops back and forth, right? That's just my body had integrity when I made a true statement and was out of alignment when I made a false statement. So you could do something like that. A lot of people have business goals, money-making goals, different things like that. If you had a goal to reach a certain level in your network marketing business or something like that, and you said, okay, I want to be a intergalactic distributor, whatever, right? You could test yourself. I'm ready, willing, and able to do that, right? That'd be a yes or no. It's good for me. It's safe for me. I believe I can. And if you really, really want to do something, but you find yourself really not taking a lot of action towards that, okay, there's probably some sort of disconnection between what you want to do and what your subconscious actually is cool with, okay? The other way that you can test your dreams and goals for BS is this, and I'll include this in the show notes. I recently heard Lewis Howes interviewed Kevin Coy. Anyways, I'll put it. He's a comedian. It was really a fascinating interview, and he talked about following when something feels light. Like I think of something and it makes me feel light. Okay, well, it's like I'm connected to it. Let's do it, right? Or when something makes you feel heavy and it's like, ugh, it's just I can't do it, right? And he talked about making some really huge career moves which didn't technically make any intellectual sense or good common sense, but it made him feel light, okay? And he let go of some things which made him feel heavy, and the opportunity and things that just fell in his lap after you did it was absolutely radically life-changing. So I see a bunch of people watching. Anyone have any other questions with that? So again, we're talking about, just to review, if you're showing up late, we're talking about using your physical body and muscle testing. In fact, for those of you who like reading the Bible, there's a scripture in Hebrews which talks about that your physical body, that you can be trained to know the difference between right and wrong, good and evil. And that's just kind of what your physical body is doing, is saying yes, no, okay? And that you can take goals that you have that maybe you're not connecting to, right? You're like, okay, I want to do this. Why am I not following through? I want to lose weight. How come I'm eating McDonald's every day, right? So that's just some indications. Anyone have any questions for me? If you post them up there. I will try and answer them. Brain nerves again as well. Okay, I'm trying to look at that. Sorry. Would you tell us again about the gut to brain nerves again? Okay, sure. Let me talk a bit about that. Someone asking about the enteric brain, and I'll go into a little more detail about that. You have something called an enteric brain. When people say a gut feeling, okay, you actually have 8 times the amount of nerve action going from your gut to your brain as from your brain to your gut. Literally, the amount of nerve signaling as like a small dog living inside your gut, right? And so when people say I have a gut feeling, it's a literal thing. One of the things I run into for a lot of people is I deal with a lot of people who are very intuitive, okay? And if you are naturally very intuitive and you're very used to your radar, so to speak, different things in life can kind of disconnect your radar. Traumatic experiences or trapped emotional issues or different things like that. And when your radar gets disconnected, especially if you're someone who's very used to relying on that because you're normally very intuitive, it can be crazy stressful for you, right? You're like, I don't know how to make a decision, right? So one thing I do for clients is we go through and we figure out you can muscle test for the level of how well it's plugged in and how well it's connected. And if you have a low level of connectivity, you can find out the underlying energetic issues and reconnect that. To give you an example, I had a client the other day who's very intuitive. Their house had sold very suddenly, and all of a sudden they had to make this huge decision on where to move. And usually they're very good at following their gut. But at this time, she was like, I'm freaked out. I can't make a decision. And she showed me on her Fitbit, she was sleeping like an hour and a half a night, just crazy. Well, we worked through that and we tracked down all the ways she was disconnected from actually using her enteric brain or her radar. And when we reestablished that, all the stress level comes down because now you're not flying blind, okay? And the next day she messaged me a screen capture of her Fitbit and she slept almost 7 hours that night. She goes, I feel completely different. The other thing to consider, if you really have these big goals and dreams and you're not connecting to them at all, often I find this thing called a spirit out-of-body disconnection, okay? And the way I'm going to explain this is, if we take an analogy like if you take a glove is like your physical body, right? And your hand, when it is your spirit, and when your hand goes into and fits into the glove, it animates and gives life to the glove, okay? And one of the things that can happen for people is very high amounts of stress, physical trauma, different things like that can kind of disconnect your spirit a little bit from your physical body. An extreme example would be something like this. If someone is very ill and they have spent a lot of time kind of on the edge of death, and you understand when your spirit leaves your physical body, your body dies like that. So what can happen is if someone spends a lot of time in very traumatic situations or very near death, and their spirit starts to disconnect a bit. An extreme example would be that medical science kicks in and their physical body totally recovers, right? And they shouldn't die, but they still do, right? Because they got too disconnected. And that's a very extreme example. But what will happen a lot of times is you'll go through major trauma in your life and you'll be slightly disconnected. And typically people who have an issue like that, they'll say, wow, I just felt, I just don't feel like myself, like I'm not functioning properly. They'll just feel literally physically disconnected from almost this earthly plane, and they'll have a very hard time doing things. And when you can track that down and reset it, it can be quite dramatic, the physical shift for people. All right, any other questions here? It's kind of hard for me to read it this way. Wow. Okay. Any other questions for me? Almost looks like there are people asking questions, but I can't quite read it. Next time I'll flip it over. I will include a short video in the comments on really how do you do energetic healing and testing for people, kind of what's the science behind it, what are some of the results, and a basic explanation. But I encourage you that, the other thing I would add is this is, some of what we talked about today is tapping into intuition, okay? And some people feel, oh, I am super intuitive. Other people go, I'm not. The truth is that everyone is actually has intuition to a much, much higher degree than they really understand. And a good example of this was some research done at the HeartMath Institute. And what they did is they kind of wired people up so they can measure signaling from like the heart to the brain to the rest of the body, all sorts of different things, right? And what they would do is they would give all these people, sit them down, wire them up, and they would sit in front of a screen, and the screen would flash something very happy and positive, or would flash something very negative and scary, okay? And eventually what the researchers found is they could tell if it would be happy or scary based on the signaling that would go on in these people's body before the picture ever even flashed on. So in other words, these people in their physical body had intuition of what was going to happen. Didn't mean that they were actually good at connecting to that or paying attention to that. And so tapping into your intuition and learning how to listen to it, it is a skill set. For some people that comes very easily just because it's the way they're more naturally wired. But definitely it's something that everyone can do, and it just takes practice. Muscle testing is an excellent way to do that. And you can do a lot of research online on different ways to do muscle testing. Some people, test with their fingers, putting the same effort into something. And sometimes, if I put the same effort and something's true, I would have a hard time pushing my fingers down. And if it was false, right, it would slide past. Some people use something like this, like getting very good at applying the same amount of pressure. And sometimes the statement is true, and sometimes it's, false like that. I don't use those personally. The tongue one is super easy. I use a muscle testing stick, which I pull apart, and it uses the large muscles on my back and allows me to test very quickly. So that's it. If you have any other subjects you'd like me to kind of do videos on, or more extensive videos like muscle testing or intuition or long distance energy healing or even Christ-centered energy healing or something like that, I'd be happy to do that. I appreciate you guys. Thanks.